We're continuing this speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1988, and he's talking about the Mashiach meal that the Baal Shem Tov used to make, and that the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, about 100 years ago, he established that all of the Hasidic Chabad should do it, and now it's more and more popular. The last day of Passover. The last day of Passover, they make a Mashiach meal. That's what it's called, Mashiach. And they drink 4 cups, and they eat matzah. And you talk about Mashiach, and you think about Mashiach, and you sing about Mashiach, and you dance about Mashiach. Here we had a wonderful, in Kfar Chabad alone, I think there must have been 100, who knows how many, big ones, and then people made in their houses, Mashiach meals. And there's the Chabad houses all over Chabad, all over the world, all over Israel. They're making these Mashiach meals. Mashiach meal, once a year, Mashiach meal. What's the idea of the Mashiach meal? Is soon Mashiach is going to be revealed. And the idea of the Mashiach meal is you take Mashiach not just in your mind and in your mouth and in your talking and thinking, but also in doing. It goes into your body. It becomes physical. So not just your brain and your mouth, but also your stomach become unified with God. That's the idea of the revelation of the Mashiach. Ask the Rebbe, why haven't we been, we've been waiting for Mashiach since the Torah was given, right? Since the Torah was given 3,000 years ago, but for sure, since the temple has been destroyed, we're waiting for Mashiach. Why did it wait until now to reveal this thing? Why only 100 years ago was this revealed? So the Rebbe said 2 reasons why. Number 1, the darker things get in exile, the darker that gets is we have to have a big light in order to illuminate the darkness. So God has mercy on us, and he gives us more of an awareness of the necessity of Mashiach to come. Necessity of Mashiach. And number 2, the nearer that we get to the goal is there's little glimpses of what that goal is going to be. Like it says that before Shabbat, you're supposed to taste from the food of Shabbat. Now just to make this thing clear over here, what's going on, Mashiach. Mashiach is definitely a person. Definitely a person. But the goal of Mashiach, Maimonides says it. Anyone who wants to see, I can send you. You just look at the very last chapter of the 14 books of Maimonides. It's called in the Laws of Kings. It's called Laws of Kings, chapter 11. Look over there, and it says, "What's Mashiach going to do? What's this guy Mashiach supposed to do?" Mashiach. He says, first of all, he's going to teach the Jews Torah, and he's going to bring all the Jews back to doing Torah and the commandments, the Torah and the commandments, and then he's going to build the temple. But the main purpose in the beginning, that all the Jews are going to do Torah and commandments, at least, they say a quantum mass. Jews are going to come back to the Torah, they're going to come back to the commandments the way they're supposed to be. Then he's going to build the 3rd temple. The 3rd temple is going to come from heaven. And then all of the Jews in the world are going to be gathered to the land of Israel. All the Jews in the world, because they want to come near to the temple. We said that Mashiach brings them to do Torah and the commandments. The only place you can really do all the Torah commandments the way they're supposed to be done is in the land of Israel when there's a holy temple. Without that, you can't really do the commandments. You make blessings on the commandments. Like certainly you do the commandments, it's outside of Israel. The commandments, of course, are obligation. But it's not, you don't feel the godliness, number 1. And there's a lot of commandments you can't do outside of Israel. All the agricultural commandments, all this. So all the Jews will come to the land of Israel. Those are the big things Mashiach is going to do. Before that, there's a step before that. He's going to fight the battles of Judaism. All these forces which are trying to destroy Judaism, reform, or conservative, Christianity, Zionism, all these things which are trying to water down or divert or pervert whatever Judaism, as he's going to fight against it. What does he mean to fight against it? With education. Simply with education. He's not going to make wars and come with a big sword. King David had to do it with a sword, but the Mashiach is definitely not going to. They say one example of Mashiach was Rabbi Chaim ben Attar. the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, that he was Mashiach. This is, he was the Mashiach of his generation. Another one was Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, we just talked about, right? Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. He was supposed to be the Mashiach of his generation. They say that even before that, the king Chizkiyahu, he was supposed to be the Mashiach. He made a small mistake. He wasn't. Right? These were people that they fought the battles of God. They educated all the Jewish people. They in the case of Chizkiyahu, there was the first temple. Right? Anyway, it ended up that they didn't make the Mashiach. They had qualifications. They had the criteria of Mashiach, but they weren't. So what we're waiting for Mashiach, the idea of Mashiach is awareness of God and His Torah. True awareness of what is God and His Torah, and true awareness of what is a Jew. The whole thing of Mashiach depends on the Jews. That's what we're waiting for. And the Jews, one of the main things, we just finished learning in the Haftorah, it was the Haftorah of the 8th day of Passover, how Mashiach is going to gather all the Jews together. What are the main things of the Jews? Okay, of Mashiach. So there's two reasons why we have this Mashiach meal now. One is because the world is getting darker and darker, and therefore we have to have a bigger and bigger light in order to dispel the darkness, transform the darkness. And the other one is almost the opposite. The nearest that we get to the future redemption, we have little sparks that are being revealed of the future redemption. Like before Shabbat, you're supposed to eat from the food of Shabbat. In any case, we do have the Mashiach meal now, and we do it. Okay. This whole idea we said of the meal, Mashiach meal, in the last day of Passover, this Shteit Nachmer B'Hadgasha is even more stressed in a revealed way in this year. Why? Then Achron Shal Pesach, it came on Yom Shabbos. By us in Israel, that's how it was. The last day of Passover was on Shabbat. But outside of Israel, the last day of Passover was on Sunday. Okay, but it was brought into the world. So it's relevant to us even more this year, but back in 1988, it was relevant to them outside of Israel. And then when it happened, so it's eternal. Okay. It says, was Dummeld, which then gate men Orion from Sudas Mashiach would come from the Mashiach meal at the end of the year immediately into the Malava Malka, into the meal of after Shabbat. Now, after Shabbat, there is a custom to make a meal after Shabbat. Some people can't eat very much, but it's a custom to eat bread or something after Shabbat. And that's called a Malava Malka, escorting the queen out, Queen Shabbat. Welche werd angerufen Surat David Malka Mashiach. So if so, for instance, in Israel this year, so we made the Mashiach meal on Shabbat, and then Motzi Shabbat, you make another meal, which is called every Motzi Shabbat, it's called the meal of King David, the Mashiach. David Malka Mashiach, King David, the Mashiach. And like I said before, that according to the Maimonides, King David was the first Messiah, and we're waiting for the second coming. We're waiting for Mashiach ben David. Because then is the Gila, the revelation from David, Malka Mashiach, Motzi Shabbat. That's when there's also a little bit of a ray of King David, who is the King Messiah, in a Suda and a physical meal. Same thing as this Mashiach meal. It was Dummeld, which then Kumtsua comes out, Kamuvan, like is understood in them Gila and a revelation from the meal of the Mashiach. As Vibal does, because then Darfon and Derfun Hatman, from this we have the Koach, the power of Galaich Arangian, immediately going into the meal of Surat David Melech Mashiach. In other words, here, for instance, in Israel this year, we made the Mashiach meal on Shabbat, and immediately we went into Motzi Shabbat, and we had the meal which we make every week, Motzi Shabbat, at least a small meal, eat something, and it's called the Suda of King David Mashiach, King Mashiach. So we go from one Mashiach meal to the other Mashiach meal. As Vetman is verstehen, so we can understand, from this we can understand the difference between the Suda of Mashiach, which is on Passover, on the last day of Passover, and the suit of David Malka Mashiach, and the meal of Mashiach, which is every Motzei Shabbat that we make. They're both Mashiach meals, right? He says, but there's a difference. Because the suit of Mashiach that we make, we just finished making on Passover, is nor from Achas B'Shana. It's only one time a year, the last day of Passover. Ubetoch Minag, and it's just a custom, is verstandig, so it's understood, as thus as Andrish, it's different from the meal of David Malcha Mashiach that we make every Motzi Shabbos. And that's a law in the Shulchan Aruch, right? The meal that we make on the last day of Passover is not written in the Shulchan Aruch. This is a thing that was just revealed by the Baal Shem Tov, which the Baal Shem Tov was like, 300 years ago. And the Shulchan Aruch that was written, way before that. But the Shulchan Aruch comes from the laws of the Talmud, which they come from the laws of the Torah, which that's 3,600 years ago, 3,300 years ago. Sorry. And so here we have the Mashiach meal, which is only once a year, and it's just a custom. It's not written in any law book. And we have the meal of the Mashiach, which is after every Shabbat, that is written in the law book. The difference is like this. Number one, the time. Sudat David Malka Mashiach, the meal that we make every Motzei Shabbos, Sudat Mashiach is the last day of Passover. Number one. Number two difference. The meal of King David Malka Mashiach that we make every Saturday night is Darf Kumen noch the Gimel Sudas. This comes after the three meals which are before that. Bizas the Zei Vertamo Angruf, and it's called sometimes the fourth meal. Sometimes it's called the fourth meal. This corresponds to the fourth foot of God's chariot, which is King David, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and David. David Malka Mashiach. He's the fourth foot of the throne of God, of the chariot of God. Velchakumt acharei, the Gimel, this comes after the three meals, corresponding to the 3 feet of the chariot of God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the meal we make every Motzi Shabbos, that's also called the Mashiach meal. But that comes after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the meal that we make the last day of Passover, which is only once a year, that's a meal in itself. It's alone. Was does ba 1 minute. No, base. This indicates as z darv, it should be come to their hachana va'avoda in the Gimel Sudot, that the meal we make after Shabbat is after the service, the work that we do from the previous 3 meals on Shabbat, which is not the case. The Suda of the Mashiach and the last day of Passover, this is a separate meal on itself. Nit Verbundet is not connected to any other meals. Okay, so we have 2 differences between the Mashiach meal of Passover and the Mashiach meal we make every Motzi Shabbat. Of Passover, first of all, it comes on Passover. Okay, Passover. And not only that, it's alone. It doesn't come after any meals. The meal that we make Motzi Shabbat, that is, first of all, it's on Shabbat. And it's in a continuation of the 3 meals we ate on Shabbat. Okay, there's more. The name. The meal that we make on Motzi Shabbat, this is called the meal of King David, the King Mashiach, which is not the case. This meal we make on Passover, Sudat Mashiach, then it doesn't say David, Dermit Manit David. It doesn't say anything about David. It just says Mashiach. So obviously this is talking about the Mashiach we're waiting for. It's supposed to come any moment. Number 3, of course, the meal that we make after Shabbat is also talking about the Mashiach is going to come, but putting more stress on King David. Number 4, by the way, why do we make this Motzi Shabbat? It says that God told King David that he was going to die on Shabbat. King David wanted to know, Yodea Yemei Kitzir. King David wanted to know when he's going to die. So God said, I won't tell you when, but you're going to die on Shabbat. So every time that Shabbat finished, so King David would make a meal because he knew he was going to live for one more week. So therefore it's called David Malka Mashiach. Also in name. The meal that we make after Shabbos is called this meal of King David. Oh, we did that. Okay. As we said before, the Malava Malka of King David is a law in the Shulchan Aruch. And the Sudat Mashiach that we make on Mincha, that we make on Passover, this is just a custom. It's not a custom. Okay. So we have four differences, in other words. Four differences. The Mashiach meal on Passover falls on Passover. It's alone, doesn't come after any other meals. Doesn't come after any other. It's called Sudas Mashiach, not David Mashiach. And it's just a custom. It's just a custom. It's not a okay. Here we go. Listen to this. The explanation is like this. There is a connection between King David and the Mashiach. King David is called the anointed king, and the Mashiach is called the anointed one, Mashiach. Seinen sie aber zwei besondere Menschen. But these are two different people. These are two different people. And also two different topics, two different, accomplishments. That there's going to be two different, eons, periods. Like the Gemara said, here we go, listen to this. In the Gemara in Sanhedrin, there's a whole couple of pages that talk about Mashiach. There it says Mashiach can come from the dead, and if he does come from the dead, it's going to be like Daniel, etc. Well, it says, it says God is going to make another King David. That is going to rule over them. Right? When was this said? This was said by the rabbis after the second temple. This was said by the rabbis after. When was King David? He was before the first temple. So this was said, let's say, 900 years after King David. So King David already lived, and King David, everybody knew that the Mashiach is going to come from King David. And King David is called Melech HaMashiach. He's called the anointed one. But he says God is going to make another one, another King David, David Acher, another King David, and he is going to rule over the Jewish people. Shene'amar, like it says, V'avdu et Hashem Elokecha, et David Malcolm, you will serve God. They will serve, the Jewish people will serve God, and they will serve King David, their king. Asher Akim Lahem, that I will make for them. And like it says, when the Jews went over the sea, it says they believed in God and in Moses, his servant. The Jewish people will believe in God and in the Mashiach. Hakim, it says, Akim, I will stand up for them. What? It's a sentence. What does the sentence say? It says, Shnei Amar 43, here it is. It's a sentence in, where is it? 7, what is this? It's a sentence in Isaiah, but I don't know where it is. Maybe it's in Jeremiah. Okay, I have to look and see. Okay. Shene'amar, like it's, it's 48. I see. I thought this was the 3. I get it. Okay. Jeremiah. It looked like a 3. Couldn't figure out what this got to do with what we're talking about. Okay. Jeremiah, it's a pasuk in Jeremiah. What does it say in Jeremiah? It says, V'avdu, you, the Jews people, serve God. They will serve God, their God. And King David, Asher Akim, that I will establish for them. Hakim lo nirmar. It doesn't say King David that I made for them, but Akim, I will. There's going to be another King David. Omer lo, it says, etc. It says David Avdi Nasi Le'am Lolam. It says we learned this in the Haftorah also. It says David, my servant, I will. In the Yechezkel, it says in Yechezkel, it says David, my servant, I will make for them forever. There's only going to be one King David, and he's going to be forever. What are you telling me? There's going to be two? Says the Gemara. This is the continuation of the same Gemara in Sanhedrin. It says, the Gemara says, come on, Ceasar, the Palge Ceasar, like a king and a half king. Perish, Rashi says, Melech, a king, V'sheni lo, and an assistant to him. King David also, David, the new David, Melech, who's going to be a king, Like it says, David Malcolm Asher Akim. That's what it says in Jeremiah. I will make a King David, and there's going to be a second King David. Like it says, Nasi Laem Velo Katuv Melech. It says, I will make a ruler for them. And it doesn't say he's going to be a king. Nasi. So Nasi, in this case, is usually in the Torah when it says the word Nasi. It talks about, it means the king. It says, Nasi Asher Yechata. If a Nasi does a sin, that he brings this offering, Nasi refers to a king. But it's not the same word. A Nasi means somebody that's higher than everybody else. And a king is totally it's a totally different level. Okay. So there's going to be two levels in David. One is going to be a Nasi, and another one is going to be a king. Two levels of King David. The erste, yeah, so it says that this that he says is going to be a Nasi above everyone, that's going to be forever. That's going to be forever. And that one he says is going to be a king, it doesn't say forever. So a king is higher than a Nasi. A Nasi means he's the highest person. Somehow or other they got that around in Israel, right? They have the prime minister, and then they have the Nasi. The Nasi is like the president. He's below. Okay, that I guess they took it from this. Okay, well, let's see. The Unterschied, the do it different. So these are two levels in Mashiach. One is going to be the level of a king, and the other one is going to be the level of a Nasi. The Unterschied, zwischen, the difference between them, David, the King David, and the Mashiach, wird man verstehen, we can understand after we explain what it says in the Gemara, Ceasar upalgi Ceasar. He's going to be a king and a half king. Why does the Gemara use such a bizarre language, Ceasar? Which Lichiora is this in Gansen, this is not understood. Ceasar and Palgi Ceasar, this is the uptights, this is what it means. This is a Roman word from a melech or mishnah melech, from a king and an assistant king. What do they call it? A viceroy. What do they call a roy as the king, and the viceroy is the king, the assistant king, like a vice president. Is very the shaila. So the question is so that's going to be Mashiach. It's going to be the Mashiach is going to be Moshiach, and he's going to be an assistant Mashiach, and that was expressed in King David, and in the Melech Mashiach it's going to be. Okay, let's get this 1 second. Okay. First of all, why does the Gemara use the word Ceasar? Ceasar is a Roman word. It's a word for a king. Also, we're going to learn in a second that's why the Caesar was called Caesar, but he was also born by what is it called, a Caesarean section. That's where the word Caesar comes from. Caesarean birth, that they had to cut open the womb of his mother. He wasn't born in a normal way. It wasn't a normal way, right? In Hebrew, there's also another word for a person that's not born in a normal way. That same term, Caesarean, is called Yotze Dofen. He came out from the side. Yotze Dofen in Hebrew means, Yotze came out from the side, but it means unusual. Yotze Dofen means something unusual. Okay, we'll get to that. Mashiach is going to be totally unusual and half unusual. We'll see in a second. Ver Shaila with the question. Okay, again, the word in the Talmud says that Mashiach is going to be King David, and then there's going to be another Mashiach. And the other Mashiach is also going to be King David, because that's what it says. King David is going to rule forever. It says, well, the first one is going to be King David, and the second one is going to be Mashiach. The first one's going to be like a half king, and the other one's going to be like a total king. So use the word king. Why the word Ceasar? The question is, in a Rebbe Makomos and a lot of the places in the Torah, it says the word king. True, the Gemara is written in Aramaic, but there's a lot of places where there's the Hebrew words, and the word for king is one of them. It uses Hebrew words. Even the non-Jewish kings are also called Melech, right? Melech Romi, it says Melech Romi, Melech Achashverosh, Melech. Farvos is why does the Gemara over here say David a Melech, King David, and the Melech Mashiach, who's going to come afterwards? Why unve un vi ze vert zayin bizgalos, how they're going to be revealed in the future? Why does it call with the name of Ceasar? A Ceasar and Palgi Ceasar in the nation, in the language of Roman or whatever of the non-Jews, Ubenei and Gufa, and especially language Roman, which Romi, right? I guess Italian. This is the nation which they destroyed the Holy Temple. We're in exile of Rome now. It says Lebanon ba'adir yipol. It says that the Lebanon, that's the Holy Temple, will fall in the hands of the great leaders. Not melech, a mishnah lamelech. Why doesn't it say, use the word, instead of saying a king, a Ceasar, and a half Ceasar, say normal Hebrew. The Talmud uses normal Hebrew. Say normal word. The Mashiach is going to be a king and an assistant to the king. Only when it comes to Mashiach, it uses this weird word. Even more, Ceasar in Roman, this is korot, comes from the language of being to cut open. Chaticha v'karita. Schneiden, to cut. Al Shem, this is on the name of this king. Let's get to this. On the name of a melech, a king from Rome, which was called Ceasar. That was his name, Ceasar, right? Al Shem, Caesar. Al Shem, Ze was Eres geborn, because he was born by means of Nitkashe. His mother had trouble giving birth. The Kartubidna, they cut open her stomach, and the child came out by the side. In Lashon Kodesh, this is called a Leda Ba'ofen Yotze Dofen. This is called an unusual birth. Unusual birth. It's cut from the side. But the word means Yotze Dofen. It came out from the side. The Al Shemo, and in his name, all the kings which came after this case, they were called Ceasar. So how can it possibly be that the Gemara, that he compares King David and the Mashiach to the Ceasar, to a king which is born in an unusual way, was based off later both in Yotze Dofen, that he was abnormal, an abnormal birth. Even more, the king, a Roman king, that's the Mashiach is compared to a Roman king. Also, we have to understand also, in the whole topic, the Gemara says even more, nor as from Pasukim, from the Pasukim, that it's understood that the Mashiach and the David HaMelech, they are going to be in the future a king and a half king. It's going to be one person. It's going to be a king and a half king. We have to understand, why is it going to be so? Why does it have to be that King David will be? Why not just say King David will be reincarnated, and that's it, right? King David, David Melech Yisrael, Chai V'Kayom, we say. King David never died. So let's say we'll just reveal that. Listen, in the end, all the Jews are going to rise from the dead. So King David just rise from the dead, and it'll be King David. So the Gemara says, yeah, maybe it's going to be something like that, but it's not going to be the same king. It's going to be a king and a half king. Why? That we're going to find out, God willing, tomorrow.